That countdown always seems to take so long. So, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Chris, where me, Chris, I like to have interesting conversations with interesting people that I meet along the way that I think could add value to the people out there. And we sit there and we have a chat in the middle of your workday when you're not playing on your computer, because this is the middle of our workday. So, I think I'm excited to introduce Dr. Mary. We talked the other day. We were connected by a mutual friend, Dan Stewart, and boy, it's nice when you meet people that are cut from the same cloth. And for sure, I thought you had a tremendous story and a lot of value to add. So welcome and thanks for being with us here today in the middle of a workday. We know everybody's kind of doing stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. I too am very grateful that Dan connected us, and to love that feeling of when you meet someone who has similar values and beliefs and expectations as you. It feels like, we meet together, we fit. That's the word I'm looking for. We fit,
Right.
and we kind of find our tribe. And I think it's in those environments that we grow the best. So that's one of the things that I've really learned about being an entrepreneur just in the last couple of years, is really coming to appreciate the value of that community and that connection. Not just to, we talk about networking to build our businesses. That's great. We should network to build our business, but there's also networking to fill our souls. And I think that we should not overlook the value of that kind of networking.
I love that. Having gratitude for everything all around. And as you're talking about that, about being an entrepreneur and kind of how you arrived at this place in your personal journey, and quite a journey it's been. We talked a little bit about that and what you went through to get to this point and why you were so passionate about sharing it with everybody. I mean, could you tell us a little bit about what you've gone through, where you've been, and where you're going?
Absolutely. I think it sets the context for, now what I believe in, what I preach, and what I teach. My first career was in special education, and I intentionally chose to go into special education as a young adult because I saw that when I was in school, K through 12, school was not difficult for me. It's not that I really tried very hard. I didn't have to try to get by. And that's what I did. I got by. But what I was noticing is that I had classmates who tried really, really hard and they still struggled. And so I wanted to be the teacher for those kinds of students that learn differently, because I really want everyone to feel their value. And just because I might have a disability, maybe I'm dyslexic and I'm not reading at the same level as everyone else, or maybe I have a diagnosis like attention deficit and I function differently in the world than everyone else. Just because I'm different doesn't mean that it's worse. And so that's why I went into special education, and I just had this passion and this social justice drive that to see the value in everyone, even though their packaging might look different.
It's the uniqueness that everyone deserves an opportunity. Everyone's special kind of in their own way. And you were just passionate about seeing that and felt like kind of restoring balance to the world in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It really was a mission for me. It wasn't just a job that I did. And so as I became that teacher and experienced success in what I was teaching, I wanted to be able to spread that kind of experience out to all of my colleagues in a building. So I primarily worked with kids with emotional disabilities. And these are the kids that really push everybody's hot buttons. It gets real personal with adults real quick when kids learn that they can mouth back and they can, stand up for themselves, or they can throw a temper tantrum and to get their way. So I learned to work with these students in such a way that I was able to teach them how to get their needs met, so they didn't have to do all of these other kinds of, we call them irresponsible behaviors, in order to be able to function in that classroom and feel like they belonged in that classroom. And so once I saw how to do that, I really wanted to help all of my colleagues, all of my teachers, to create that kind of experience in their classroom. Because how awesome would it be if in our schools, every kid just knew that they belonged in that school and they belonged in that classroom, and that this, again, was that environment where they could thrive. So I moved into leadership roles in order to have that impact. And my first year of leadership administration was terrible. It's like I threw out everything that I knew about how to bring the best out in others. And I really reverted back into a very top-down kind of approach. And I got a lot of pushback on that and almost lost my job at the end of that first year. Fortunately, I had a director, a mentor who agreed to mentor me
Hmm.
and said, look, let me take Mary under her wing. Yeah, she's really blown it this first year, but let me take her under her wing and see what we can do. And 4 years later, that particular director, my mentor, retired suddenly. And I told my superintendent, hey, I know we had a really rough start, but if you want or need somebody to kind of fill in an interim because the previous directors resigned very suddenly, I said, I'd be happy to do that. And, their response was, no, thank you. We've got this. I thought, okay, that's fine. And they come back to me 2 weeks later saying, are you still interested? And so really what that said to me was that I really did make that shift from that top down to more of a collaborative kind of leader. And then I ended up, due to other life kind of experiences, moving around to other districts. And I end up in a district, let me just cut right to the last meeting that I remember having with my superintendent. And my superintendent pulls me in. And of course, my job as a special ed director was to make sure that the services that we were providing to kids with disabilities not only was met federal and state regulations, but it also quality of the services that we were providing so that the kids, those students really had a chance on the outside, right? It wasn't just pushing them through the system, but we really were doing good things for them. So that was my mission. And my superintendent pulled me in one day and said, hey, look, Mary, I don't know what to tell you because everything you're doing is exactly the way I would do it. I don't know how to tell you to do this differently, but the way you're doing it's not working. So you either got to figure out how to do this differently or this isn't going to work anymore. And
the good old system.
Yeah, exactly. So I come back to my desk at that point and I kind of have one of these, I'm at the bottom, like, this is it. This is a turning point. What's that going to be? And I remembered a concept popped into my head from Psych 101 or someplace like that. And it's called the Johari window. And it's not necessary to understand the whole thing, but just think of 4 quadrants. And in one quadrant, there's everything that you know about you and everybody else does too. And then across from that is the quadrant, everything about you that you don't know and that nobody does either. And it occurred to me that whatever blockages or limitations to my success must be in this quadrant. And I said to myself, wow, I wish I had a coach.
So
and I said that out loud.
Is it the blind self or the unknown self? I'm just the blind self is you know about yourself that other people don't, and then the unknown self is nobody knows, right? Is that the one?
It would be, both of those would be in this quadrant.
Yep, I got
right?
you.
Yep. So so I think, okay, well, if I had a coach could help me uncover what's in this quadrant, and then I would be free to be the leader that I really had the capacity to be. And this was probably about 12, 13 years ago. I lose track of time, but it was really before coaching was the industry that it is now. So it shocked me that I said this out loud to myself. I Googled it, found out what it was, and just immediately, again, felt that connection to my earlier mission of helping everyone achieve the best, maximize their potential. This coaching seemed to be the next way to do that with adults. So I quit. I resigned my job. I threw myself into the certification. I got the certification. And then literally in my mind, and I laugh about this now, but in my mind, I had my coaching certification and I had a doctorate in leadership. You put those together, I'm now a leader. I'm a leadership coach. Sure. And I sat home for a year telling myself that I was a leadership coach, but I never told anyone else that I was a leadership coach. And so I had no business. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was super frustrated with it because I was really passionate about it. And I really wanted to be able to deliver, but I just didn't know how to do that. And so I go back to coaching within the school system, have really good success there, and then find my way into coaching within a real estate company. And within that company, I was on the transformational coaching team. Yeah. And the way we describe those clients is really those are the clients who know what they're supposed to do to build their business. They're just not doing it, or they're not doing it consistently enough. And so I was able to learn business building strategies in that capacity because I was still coaching clients around that. This wasn't therapy. This was, how do I build my business and build myself at the same time? And that's my sweet spot. So that's where I am now. I
Yeah.
love bringing the system side of building a business with the personal development side of building a business, because I think that's where things get big.
Yeah, it's so there's so many. I mean, man, when you unpack that, right? And so quite often the journey that we go through, and you kind of got to this point, you're like, hey, only if I had a coach, I'd be able to kind of see these blind spots, right? And
Yeah.
maybe that's where told me back then you went and got that, and you kind of were apprehensive about that because so many people like my girlfriend doesn't like to tell people that I'm a coach because it's like it's a negative thing attached to that, right? Thinking everybody became like these cubicle coaches, but to go through it yourself and then for you to have a benefit from it, to be super passionate to go out there and share it with people, and it's so funny also making the distinction between, hey, I got this doctorate in leadership, I got certified in coaching, I'm a leadership coach. And then, but there's always, in whatever business we're in, there's always the business building, business development side of it. Yes. You kind of learn that from working with a real estate company. I mean, look, most of the people, and we've come from the same real estate company at different times. Mm-hmm. And most of the people in the real estate business, that's where they struggle, right? And that's where and people don't realize that is a business. It's no different than if you open up a restaurant or if you have a coaching business or you have a tech startup, whatever that is. We're always in the business of, I have this thing, I have this product or service. How do I get the right eyeballs on it? Who is my ideal client? And how do I get in front of them? And how do I articulate at a high level what I do and how I can help them? So, I mean, since you decided to do that, and, it's so nice to see, I mean, somebody posted like, I can't wait to hear this. Dr. Mary is one of the best coaches ever, right? So somebody posted that earlier, and I was like, right on. So it's, I mean, how do you get from that place? Holy cow! I better let people know I do this, and let me get that out there to where you are today, where you're kind of running your own business. You're doing exactly what you want to do. Mm-hmm. We're 2:00 in the afternoon. Well, here in Eastern time, you're in Chicago, right? Was it 1 o'clock there?
Yeah.
Either way, we're in the middle of the afternoon. We're chatting up. We're talking about this stuff. So that's kind of a cool job. So how did you get to that place? Like what you go through? What steps did you take?
I just got the chills because when I think about that, it's been a very challenging path. From everything of, can I do this? Like, I was coaching school leadership teams and I was really good at it. My schools did exceptionally well. I was coaching 4 underperforming high schools in the Chicago area. Now, if you have any opinions about underperforming high schools, they probably are true. These are big ships that are hard to turn around. And in the 4 years that I was working with these 4 high schools, 3 of them were no longer eligible for services. So that was my first experience where I had to see my own value. I had to see that my contributions were able to help another organization move from point A to point B. The 4th school that I was assigned to me chose not to work with me. They were on my caseload, but it wasn't required. They didn't have to do it. They said, hey, we got this. We're going to do it our own way. That one high school remained in the lowest 5%. Now, I'm not taking all of the credit and I'm not taking, it's a group effort, but I still had to see my own value. And then once I was able to see my own value, then I could see, here are the skills that I don't have yet, that I'm going to need to know how to, I want to know more about this whole business building aspect of things, because now that I've got a taste of it, and it's been a difficult taste, that passion, how can I help other people who have that sort of live passion find a way to manage the technical side as well as the people side? And so for me, the people side was, once I could see my own value, once I was learning my skills, then I had to continuously hone those skills and I had to look for places where I was succeeding, because my default was kind of like in high school. Like, my default was I'm going to do enough to get by. And this was a place where that wasn't going to be good enough for me anymore. And so if I'm going to put more of myself into this, I need to make sure that, or to pay attention to the value that I'm getting from other people. Mm-hmm. And then as I could see that value, I could see what were the kinds of things that my clients were struggling with that I was actually able to help them with. Because I'm not good at everything. I think as coaches, we learn that there are things that we are really a master at, and that there are some things that maybe we refer out to other people who are masters.
Yeah. I
So
say the one thing you need to be good at is being really good at finding people that are really good at things, So,
yes, yeah, right. Now, I would say that the piece that has kind of pushed me over this next edge, and where I really feel like I'm standing in my power, is really recognizing that there's at least two ways of building a business. And I know there's more, but for argument's sake, let's say there's two. And one is what I would call that really masculine route, where it's all results driven, it's problem solvers. How fast can I get to the end? Is strong. How can I control everything? And that's very exhausting. And when we believe that in order to get to the outcomes, we have to control all of the variables, not only is it exhausting, but when we meet failure, then that failure is a reflection of us, right? It becomes personal. So there's that kind of business person that just aligns with that masculine energy and
bottom
really
line, right?
that
Results driven, focus on the bottom line. Okay.
Yep.
Pass or
Yep.
fail.
Exactly. And then there are the clients that are like, yes, the bottom line is important to me, but I can't possibly control all of these variables. So how do I build a business built on a purpose to do good in the world and not go crazy while I'm doing
Say
it?
the two, so results driven or purpose driven, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I would say the masculine way of building a business is really the results driven. Like, what's my GCI? How many units did I close this year? It's just looking at the numbers. Whereas and I'm labeling now as the conscious entrepreneur is one who is driven by purpose, and they measure their success by how much value have I brought through my business to other people, and what impact has that had. Now, the purpose driven or the conscious entrepreneur doesn't ignore profit. Profit is part of the equation. This isn't about being a nonprofit and just giving everything away. This is I'm going to give it to myself. How can I build a business that helps me help others maximize their potential and make a profit from doing it?
I love that. And by the way, just if anybody's tuning in, I just posted just a link. They could schedule a session with you, a call. I put the link there to get on with you. And I mean, I love this dichotomy of results driven and purpose driven. It's almost kind of like it's in one hand, everything is black and white, and it's kind of like I gauge my success or failure by my results. And by the way, if I would have failed at every single business if I had just gauged it by my results up front, because even from real estate sales to my entertainment company to when I decided to walk away from it all and get into people development full time, it's a big difference. And, it's almost like measuring it based on the results or measuring it based on the impact that you have and enjoying the journey. Because I love when people are like, don't you miss this or miss that? No, I don't miss that because I'm loving right where I'm at right now. And it seems like you're in the same place. And don't you feel like you kind of you attract clients like that are kind of that are in alignment with that are just kind of vibe with that. I mean, I had a young lady that she did 20 something transactions in January last year, and she wanted to lose her mind, and she's like, I don't want to do that. Is that okay? And I'm like, no, that's okay. It's okay if you don't want to do that. No, and we come from a world where it's like build, big. It's like, hey, look, it's okay if you want to do 20 transactions a year and drink more margaritas. It's fine, right? Whatever you want to do, they're your goals. And do you feel like you're attracting people that are kind of in alignment with that idea of enjoying the journey, being more purpose driven?
Yes, exactly. And honestly, most of my clients, like I said, they really did know what to do to build their business. I very little did I need to work with them on this actual skills of the business. What I needed to work on them more, what they brought to me more were these questions of, is it okay if I don't want to build a team? Is that still okay? What if all I want this business to do for me is to, pay for my child's tuition?
Mm-hmm.
That's
okay.
Valid. That is perfectly okay. And comparison, I love it when it came around convention time and people would say, oh, I don't want to go. I want to go because I love seeing all my friends, but I don't want to go because I'm going to see other people that have been in the business less time than I have. Their bottom line is much different and bigger than mine, and I'm going to feel less in comparison.
Yeah, well, then don't compare your insides to other people's outsides, right? We've heard that before.
We've heard that before, and it also goes to your point before of maybe that person wanted to build that kind of business. If that's the kind of business that you want, then hey, here's proof that it's possible, right? Now you can use that comparison to your benefit rather than to a way to tear yourself down. And on the other hand, if you say, oh my goodness, this person's been in business shorter than I have, they have a bigger team than I have, and then you look back at your own plate and you say, you know what, I don't want to build a team. Then what does it matter what they've done? It means nothing.
And sometimes we, I think we grow up in a world where we kind of go to this, the school system that really caters to, focus on your weaknesses to get them up to par like everyone else, and instead of focusing on your strengths and just kind of not thinking differently. Yeah. And if you don't pay attention, or you're hyperactive, or you're this or you're that, and then we kind of go to a college that dad thought was a good college and mom thought this was a good business to look into, and all of a sudden we're an accountant and we're sitting there and we stunk at math, and we just threw a dart at a board and said, everyone's gonna always need numbers. I mean, I remember when I was in college one time, and my buddy Dave from Hawaii, and I just looked at him, I said, Dave, why are we in college? And he's like, so that we can, get a degree. And I'm like, why? And he's like, so you could get a good job, man. And I'm like, well, what made you want to get into investment banking? And he's like, well, no matter what you do, it's going to suck. You might as well make money doing it. And I was just like, I might as well have walked out right then and there. Right. I had since never finished college, but I'm a perpetual learner. And then I just started to learn some stuff, learn about things that I thought was really cool. And I made all these discoveries, and I was like, man, I wish I'd learned this all earlier in life. And I didn't have these lessons from my parents or from my teachers or and the people around me to kind of pass them out. I just had to almost serendipitously discover them. And since then, I've been a lifelong learner. And the highest form, and I tell all my people this, the highest form of learning is teaching, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's so true. And that's why it's like, I have my people, and I make them put together things. I'm like, what are you uniquely positioned to teach somebody something else how to do, right? That you're really good at, right? The highest form of learning. And it's one of the steps to mastery. So it's just people don't, I think people focus on the wrong things. They're measuring, I gotta have a bigger house than my neighbor. I gotta have a prettier spouse than my neighbor. I get, like this person said that this was good. I mean, who really wants to do any of that stuff,
Right.
I don't know. Look, there are some people that do, and whatever makes you happy. But I think you have to be really in touch with what makes you happy and passionate. Amen. That's kind of like your process. So you tell us about your process. So somebody might come to you. Yep. What's the ideal, like the person that comes to you would be in what position, and the ideal person that you can help, and what kind of process do you take them through?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that question. And I wanted to come back to your comment real quick before I respond to that. And that comment was, nobody taught me how to do this. Nobody teaches us our school system. Our school system is also very masculine. We get our value based on our ranking in our class. How well did you do on your project? We're looking for external validation of our worth, and our systems are set up for this. So the fact that we become adults now and we feel like we're going to have to just take a job that sucks because, well, I need to pay the bills, and so I don't really have an option. I think that those are kind of the qualities that my ideal client would come with, and saying, look, I have been following the path that I thought that I was supposed to follow from day one. A lot of my clients are very much rule followers. Like I was told that, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get a job. I from the job, then you move up in the ranks. I've done all of that. Or I didn't get a job and I had a family and I raised a family, and now it's, what do I do now? So either I've raised a family or I've taken the career path, and I'm now to this point where what am I getting joy out of my life with? And so a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs that are asking themselves this question. Like they feel passionate about their business because oftentimes it's the way that they're making money to support their family, and that's important. But there's often, I find, this hidden purpose, mission built within that business that really is why they do it. Why does a real estate agent sell houses? Now, when I ask my clients those questions early on in our conversations, I'll say, let's say that we're new and I'm at a networking event and I introduce myself to you and I say, hey, I'm Mary. What do you do? And they would say, well, I'm a real estate agent. I say, that's who you are. That's not what you do. Mm-hmm. What you do, and then we would go into a conversation. Why real estate agent? What is it that's so important to you about what you get to do as a real estate
what's
agent?
going to manifest as working with you? Who do they become? What do you accomplish in them, and who do you become as a result of fulfilling that? And and you get all these different answers, don't you? Because selling houses is a mechanism.
It's a mechanism. Exactly. Yeah. What's the bigger purpose behind that mechanism? And many times, many of my clients hadn't thought about it, right? They became a real estate agent because it was a possibility that would cross their path and they took it. Oftentimes there was not this childhood dream of someday I'm going to sell houses, right? Oftentimes a lot of my clients have stumbled into real estate, and maybe entrepreneurs kind of stumble into entrepreneurship too. I did. Like, okay, now I have this problem that I've experienced myself as a leader. And if I'm experiencing this problem, I'm sure others people are, and I want to help them through that. So my clients are also, they want to be driven by purpose. They do not want to be driven by that bottom line. Although the bottom line is important, we're not disqualifying that, but we're driven by purpose. And so I help my clients then get in touch with what is that underlying purpose? What makes you making those phone calls so valuable to you? Because again, most of my clients, nobody wants to make phone calls. Of course, if your script is, do you or anyone else you know have a real estate need? I tell my clients that I consider myself a real estate civilian. And if somebody called me with that, I would probably just hang up on them. I did telemarketing when I was in college, and I had to get 3 no's before I could hang up on somebody. So I consider I'm doing myself a favor to salespeople who are calling me. If the answer is no, I just say no and hang up.
Sure.
But instead, if we're being driven by purpose, what if you called and said, how comfortable are you with the financial security of your family? You know, we're living in really insecure times, and how are you feeling about it? And then you get them talking about their financials. Well, have you ever considered how real estate could help be part of your financial security? And I can help you do that through buying and selling real estate. Yeah, so now we have a purpose, right? And so I help my clients find what is that purpose. If they're in a business and they're in a business because it found them and they do it well, and how can I help them find purpose in order to really explode this? Because when we function in a business, or we're trying to build a business that lacks purpose, it's like we're just showing up to be compliant. We're showing up to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not compliant. Maybe it is compliant. I'm going to do what I'm told to do, and I'm going to get the results, but there's no fulfillment in that.
Yeah.
Right. But if I'm doing a business because I'm helping people build their financial security, and that is more important now than it has ever been, then wow, I get the chills just saying that.
Yeah. That's that's our passion, right? We just want to, like, I say Dream Kid Consulting, do what you love what you do. Just because it's everybody should love what they do. And sometimes you find people got into business because they were passionate about something, and then it goes away. That's a better scenario maybe than somebody who just never discovered their passion at all. I mean, that's I think it was Les Brown says the graveyard's the richest place on the planet, because so many people will die with their ideas, their inventions, their music, their art. And you never know, because people they're so trapped. They're so trapped in the matrix and going for what's secure, or they got the golden handcuffs on,
Right.
I think it's, are you really willing to do what it takes? And well, I mean, thankfully you decided to take that plunge, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And, you know, we both kind of the world needs people like us to just go out there and pull it a line. But I did post a link for in the chat down there. If you guys look in the comments for a link where you could schedule a call with Dr. Mary, and also a link to your podcast, right? So you can check that out. That'd be a lot of fun. And are there any parting words? I mean, we thank you so much for joining us today. Are there any like parting words that you could, you know, leave somebody that's kind of just, you know, to take the next step?
Yeah, you know, I think that I would want to, if the listener right now is saying, is feeling this connection to purpose, like I really want purpose in my business, then you're ready to make these changes. This path is not easy, as I said in just my short story. It's incredibly difficult, and I think that we all need somebody to walk with us who has been on this path, and that's who I want to be for those conscious entrepreneurs. Is I want to be that guide that walks with them through these challenges to get them to the other side.
Yeah. So if you're ready to take the next step, and my old coach used to say, Chris, who's your who? Right. And so sometimes you have a lot of who throughout your life. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you don't know who that who is, but those of us that are asking who questions are at the highest level. So, I mean, I love what you're saying. Like, if you're ready, you know, if you're feeling like you want more purpose and passion in your business, maybe your next step is going ahead and scheduling that call, right? Just kind of talking to people, having conversations, keep the conversation alive, even if it's just people that you work with, your networking group colleagues, just to kind of get back into talking about what you're passionate about and see if it doesn't light you up. And thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
This will live here. And if anybody ever wants to watch it, I mean, it's in the middle of the day. We have a lot of people don't pop on, but on a replay, it'll be there to be repurposed. And these links will be here. And we hope to see you in the virtual world soon enough.
Thank you so much, Chris.
My pleasure. Peace out, everybody.